Now, because of the fact that I've owned over 2,000 shares of SCHD ETF for quite some time now, I think it's safe to say that I'm able to reflect on how it's been feeling, at least up until this point, holding on to a boatload of these shares of one of the most popular dividend growth ETFs across the markets. Now, with my 2,339 shares of SCHD, I not only earn around $2,300 more or less per year in dividend income, but also the idea is in the future, based off of SCHD's previous dividend growth rate, I'm going to earn more and more in dividends even if I never buy another single share. Now, even though SCHD, in my opinion, is a great ETF, I'm still always interested in hearing what other investors think about this ETF, especially with the way the market has been as of recent, with volatility and the fact that things have been all over the place. So in this video, we're going to go over SCHD, talk a little bit more about it in the context of 2025, and talk about maybe one of the most important main reasons I'm still such a fan of this ETF for a long-term investment. So I promise you guys, if you are a fan of SCHD, or maybe have ever thought about buying it, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. If you are a dividend investor who wants to level up your portfolio, you need to be tracking your dividend income consistently. And that's why I created the perfect dividend tracker that I've used to scale my dividend income up to all-time highs over the last year. Now, along with this dividend tracker, you're also going to receive my A to Z dividend investing ebook, which shows you how I personally started from $0 several years ago to now where I earn over $7,500 per month in dividends. So if you want this tracker and the ebook, go to the first link down below in my description and grab it today. Now, Jen Alpha from seekingalpha.com posted an amazing article. It says SCHD, kick back and let the good times roll. And a lot of what Jen Alpha had to say, I definitely related to in a deep way. So I want to share some of these ideas with you guys. Now, it's a summary. The Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF offers automatic diversification, income, and growth with a 3.5% dividend yield and low 0.06% expense ratio. Now, I know there's different ETFs out there that might have more growth potential and or a larger starting dividend yield, but SCHD almost offers a perfect balance of growth potential, a starting dividend growth rate, the fact that it's super cheap, and the fact that it's super diversified, which is just right off the bat one of the best parts about this ETF to begin with. Now, it says SCHD's diversified portfolio of 103 holdings includes top dividend growth names like Pfizer, Coca-Cola, abbvie, well positioned for long-term returns. With a strong dividend growth history and defensive sector focus, this ETF is ideal for dollar cost averaging, especially in uncertain market environments, sort of like I was hinting towards during the beginning of the video. Now, it also says this ETF provides a cost-efficient alternative to the S&P 500, offering steady income and potential capital appreciation, making it a solid investment choice. Now, here's the main part that I really related to, especially as I get older, and the fact that I've now been investing for nearly a decade. And I mean investing, I've been very locked down to the market for almost a decade now, which is kind of crazy to say. They said not everyone wants to be actively managing their portfolios, and that's okay, because everyone has different passions to explore with a limited amount of time every single day. Well, I prefer to hold individual stocks. Those who prefer automatic diversification, income, and growth at the same time may want to consider ETFs. Now, this is something that I've definitely related to, especially as I've gotten a little bit older. I started investing when I was like 24 years old. Now I'm 32, going to be 33 very soon. And honestly, as I'm getting older, ETFs are the way to go 150%. They say exchange traded funds come with advantages over mutual funds in that their transactions happen in shares, not cash, and therefore they don't typically trigger capital gains, etc., etc. This brings me into SCHD, which offers a host of familiar high dividend and dividend growth names all in one basket, and the fact that SCHD has produced a solid 15% total return. Now, this writer then went on to say why SCHD. SCHD is a diversified ETF with focus on dividend-paying stocks. It tracks the total return of the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index. It carries plenty of liquidity, scoring an A+ grade with 68 billion in total net assets and 2.4 billion shares outstanding. While SCHD's annual performance varies, it's produced a strong 191% total return. This is over the last 10 years, sitting just slightly below the 192 of the tech-heavy S&P or the SPY. So again, a lot of people say, why buy SCHD? Why not just buy the SPY? And honestly, they both have had awesome total returns, and they both honestly, in my opinion, I could be wrong of course, could be great long-term investments. But for the dividend investors out there like myself that want a little bit more cash flow right off the bat, SCHD definitely beats SPY by quite a bit. This writer then basically went on to say exactly that. While SCHD's total return hasn't beat the SPY, investors are in it for the income. A 3.5% dividend yield that sits 2.9% higher than the 1.2 yield of the SPY, which is exactly what I was saying. Not even to mention the dividend growth rate over time has been very, very massive with SCHD. Now, the other thing I was hinting to a little bit early on is the fact that SCHD, now that I've owned it for several years, and I've owned a lot of shares relative to my portfolio, this writer then went on to talk about how SCHD is rebalanced yearly and reconstituted annually, which allows this ETF, in my opinion, to be an even better sleep walnut ETF. Now again, I'm not speaking for everyone, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but over the years as you build out a portfolio, it gets larger and larger hopefully, there's going to be more and more moving parts, and having certain foundational positions like SCHD can allow the portfolio to withstand whatever market conditions, and again just help you sleep well at night. Especially knowing that over time different names are going to be removed and added into SCHD, and they're going to have to go through a rigorous process to make it in. This writer then went on to say that plus with mega cap tech stocks like Apple, Nvidia, and Tesla trading at very rich valuations, the S&P could be in for a lost decade. According to Goldman Sachs, GS, as of last October, they expect the S&P to just return 3% a year for the next decade and 1% after adjusting for inflation. Assuming this scenario holds water, SCHD could handily beat that with just its dividend yield alone, should the valuations of its underlying holdings remain steady. Now lastly, this writer said investor takeaway, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF presents an attractive option for investors seeking a blend of income growth and diversification in their portfolios. With a 3.5% dividend yield, strong dividend growth, and a low expense ratio, SCHD provides a cost-efficient way to gain exposure to high-quality dividend-paying stocks in a diversified portfolio of around 103 different holdings. Also, for investors wary of potential headwinds in the S&P 500, due to high valuations, SCHD offers an attractive alternative with its steady income and potential for capital appreciation over time. And that's more or less exactly what this ETF has done over the past 13 or so years. SCHD, as far as just price return goes, it's up over 227%, not to mention all those dividends included. But just like what I and Gen Alpha mentioned, this ETF is sort of the perfect blend between growth potential, between dividends and dividend growth and diversification. And again, just speaking for myself, as I get older and as I start to build out a larger and larger portfolio, which has been awesome, I want to have certain positions, certain pillars, certain areas inside my portfolio that are much more foundational, and that I don't necessarily have to be stressed about whether or not the market is green or red, and just know that the ETF has my back. So now that we talked about the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF SCHD, one of my largest and one of my favorite ETFs across the entire market, for all the reasons and more that we talked about in today's video, I lastly most importantly have a question for you guys down below. Do you currently own any shares of SCHD in your personal portfolio? And if so, how many shares do you have as of right now? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.